Like, I can't lay them 100% over each other because not only are you using a wireless headset, but then there's also the phone delay.
Oh, could be that. Could be
Yep.
my Bluetooth by the time it's like going into outer fucking
That's
space.
not how Bluetooth
And then,
works at
like,
all.
I don't know how it works.
Bluetooth
That's
is
not how
intentionally
Bluetooth
the
works. Bluetooth is going 1 foot
right,
to my
yeah.
device.
Bluetooth is intentionally
and
the
then my device
opposite
is sending
of
that
going
shit
to
outer
space.
space.
Yeah, it's all right. I'll be able to sync it.
Well,
up pretty well.
would it be the opposite of going to space? I don't know if it would be the opposite. It would just be just a lesser degree. It's a gradation of going to space.
Are you okay? So, all right. Are you ready to redo the intro?
Sure. Because like it's 1 foot from my face instead of like. I don't know how many feet it is to space. How many feet is it to outer space?
We're really
80,000.
We're just burning
80,000.
Oh God.
Is it 80,000? Because airplanes fly at like.
Yeah, it's 80,000.
10,000.
It's 80,000. Let's do the intro.
Is it 80,000? I nailed it.
No, it doesn't
I nailed
matter.
it. Oh my God! I can't believe I just knew that.
No, I don't know. I don't know what
I'm a little crushed. But that's okay.
Hold on. All right.
Welcome to the Brothers Crap, motherfucker.
Outer space.
Welcome to the Brothers Craft Time Sharing Hour, a podcast of creative sibling rivalry where we discuss how many feet it is to outer space. I'm betting 80. I've already gotten a verbal
80,000
confirmation from
80,000.
80 feet. It's 80 feet to space, and I'm gonna build a steam-powered rocket to verify. Yeah, 80,000 is what I'm betting. I don't know, because like airplanes are like 10,000, and so 80,000 seems like more and not less. I feel like when you're in an airplane, you're not quite to outer space, but you can see the curvature. I'm going 80. What is it?
Well, I'm trying to find it.
This all started because I was speaking into my Bluetooth headphone. I do mean singular headphone. Apparently they sell them in singles now, so you don't lose them. Because really, if you buy a pair of unattached Bluetooth headphones, you're just buying 2 singles because they will get lost one at a time. And I said that it had to go to outer space, but really just goes 1 foot to my phone. You said that was the opposite of space, and I feel like it's just a gradation. It's just 1 foot as opposed to 80,000 of those feet.
It is a gradation. I just meant like the goal of like pushing the signal out further or having the signal closer to you. Yeah, it's not technically. You're right. It's not the opposite. Whatever.
I mean, in the sense that words have meaning, it's not opposite.
Oh my God.
It might be apposite, which is the opposite of opposite. Just a little vocab for.
How long have you been sitting on that gem? Does that come up every time you play Scrabble?
I have been sitting on that gem. That's a weird phrase. That's not a phrase, is it? Sitting on that gem? I feel like that's coined by adamandeve.com or something. Nobody sits on a gem willingly. Did you find the distance to outer space? Because I'm just
yeah, all right. So it looks like it's called the Karman Line. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right because there's some like accent élève on the A's there. But the Karman Line at an altitude of 100 kilometers or 62 miles above sea level.
62 miles? How many feet is that?
Yeah.
That's a... I got divided by 1,600.
62... You want to know how many feet that is?
Yeah. Oh, it's not 1,600. That's not how many feet. That's how many meters?
It's
yards?
like more than 300,000 feet.
It's more than 300,000 feet to outer space?
Okay, hold on. Wait. But this from the website Science 2.0, which for internet reasons has the domain science20.com.
I'm going to start just citing for internet reasons whenever someone doubts something I say. That doesn't seem right. Well, for internet reasons, it is correct.
Hold on. Okay, so the U.S. defines space as 264,000 feet. The general international consensus says it is similar, according to the website, similar standard of 380,000 feet. So
wow, I'm not even close. I'm barely
nowhere near
even
the ballpark.
A fourth of the way. I'm literally closer to a ballpark than I am to outer space. That's
I'm still not sure about that, but no, yeah, you're right. You're closer to a ballpark. Yeah.
You know, being on the surface. So when you're in an airplane, you're 10,000 feet above the Earth. That's not. You're just you're skimming, right?
Wait, what airplane are you flying in that only flies at 10,000 feet?
Do they fly at 10,000? I don't know how.
Are you going back in time and taking all your flights in the 30s?
Is that what they fly? Is it 10? I don't know what. There's a lot.
I'm pretty sure their cruising altitude is between 30 and 40,000 feet. The whole point of this when we say this podcast is a podcast of creative sibling rivalry, what we mean is we're not qualified to talk about anything, and then we argue about those facts. So there you go.
Right.
That's really what you're showing people right now.
But in Air Force One, I feel like they must have referenced how high they were at some point, right?
Wait, is your entire education around aviation and flying is the Harrison Ford Tour de Force Air Force One?
Is yours not? I feel like that's probably just the basis for most like I don't care if you're in the military, I don't care if you're a civilian pilot, that's mandatory viewing. You and I both did that before we went into the military, right? Before I went into the military, I was like, well, I'm going to get an accurate picture of this, not by watching any documentaries, reading any books, firsthand accounts or anything. I'm going to watch The Guardian with Ashton Kutcher. and you watched, what did you watch before you went into the Army? We all went to the theater and watched something to like traumatize you. I think it was Mom and Dad's attempt to get you to not join the military. What did we watch together? Was that?
Oh yeah. That was That was right around the time Black Hawk Down came out.
Oh
so
yeah.
We went to the theater as a family right before I'm supposed to ship out.
Like you do,
Black
just
Hawk
to traumatize
Down.
everybody.
Yeah, just the look on Mom's face. Oh, so.
Well,
so
to be fair,
awful.
she usually has that same. You're talking about that kind of shocked, regretful grimace and concern. She has that usually whenever I mention your name. That's her go-to.
never
face.
Not has that.
It
face.
was just the first time you noticed it.
God.
Oh, I love that I'm the only one laughing at that. Makes it much better.
Well, she'll be laughing when the recording comes out.
Yeah.
Dan, how? Other than struggling desperately to know how far away space is, which has a direct impact on your everyday work, we know. I mean, that's why we had to settle that question right now.
That's true.
Dan, other than that, how has your week been? I haven't really talked to you much this week.
You say you haven't talked to me as though I didn't rant at you for like an hour and a half. Was it last night or the night before? I don't know.
I honestly can't remember.
You were intoxicated for most of it. Just a lot of nodding along. Some of it sounded like it was Hillary. I assume you fell asleep. My week has been pretty good. I've been making a lot of art. I've been throwing vases and carving into the outside. Vases? Vases? Easel. No one calls it. I always say like vase and vase as, two different pronunciations. And then I say easel and easel. And I still haven't verified whether or not easel is an actual pronunciation.
Literally no one pronounces it easel.
I don't know. Honestly, dude, I'm kind of a savant when it comes to pronunciation. It's weird. I can't spell to save my life, but I know how things are pronounced. So
it's such a sad thing to be a savant about. It's not the sort of thing that will like make you millions at a casino. It's only a thing that will get you either, punched in the face, worst case, or just like people will stop listening to you.
It's drastically increasing the chances that someone's gonna do one of those like neat web of the thumb index finger throat punches on me at some point. Specifically that. You know what I mean? Like from every Kung Fu movie or whatever.
Yeah.
It's always just like ha, and it's like you have just the right pressure so you don't crush the windpipe.
The best implementation of that in an action film was the Sean Connery Wesley Snipes film. It's based on a Michael Crichton novel. What is it? Red Sun Rising? Rising Sun maybe is just the name of it.
I got nothing.
No. Hold on. Yeah, Rising Sun, 1993. Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes, and Sean Connery is like this, British dude who lived in Japan for a long time, so he's the Japanese expert that Wesley Snipes is supposed to work with, not a Japanese guy. And this was right around the time of like major Japanophobia, maybe you might say, in the United States, about like, oh, the Japanese are investing heavily in our real estate and they're taking over our companies and yada yada. Oh, what a quaint time when we fretted
when we feared foreigners and vilified them in every aspect of our lives as a scapegoat.
I'm glad we've moved on
ills
from that.
Of our society.
Yeah.
Glad those days are gone.
Tomato meter on Rising Sun, by the way, Dan, just to give you a pulse on this film, 34%.
34%, pretty solid.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
big
better
old green
than
splatter.
That's better than any of the DC movies. That's pretty solid.
That's true. Yeah. So there's a scene in particular where it's just the best implementation of that open hand throat punch that you and I admire so much. Sean Connery is facing off, and he's like already an old creaky man. Like, it's weird. He's facing off against this giant bodyguard who's like, I'm a black belt in blah, blah, blah. He says some Japanese style of martial art. And Sean Connery says, of course you are. And then just slams the web of his hand into this guy's throat, and it drops him. And it's great. It's great.
Wouldn't that be great if that's how we measured that was kind of our metric for so many things, like not just martial arts, but like, I don't know, accounting or something. And it's like someone says they're an expert at one thing, and you verify that or put it to the test by physically assaulting them immediately. I just feel like I feel like that could resolve so many things. So many things.
So it's way outside the realm of martial arts. Like, because in this case, you're actually testing martial art against martial art. But you're just saying,
no, you're not testing martial arts, because martial arts would be like a carefully, like, it's prepared. There's respect for your opponents. What he did here was a total jerk move, and just punked him right in the throat. I don't know. It doesn't seem. Is that martial arts? I don't think it is. But it would be a cool way to just measure our society. You have a dispute at McDonald's about how much change you should get back. I'm looking at you, Mom. And you just you throat punch that 18-year-old kid behind the counter. That's how you resolve that. Anyway,
there's a reason that we don't do that, Dan. There's some good reasons why we don't live that way.
Name two.
I feel like you, in your world, in your imagination, you are King Throat Punch, and no one will ever attempt to punch.
No, hold on. You referenced it before. I let it go. I'm going to stop you right there. You seem to think that I admire this throat punch and in some way expect that I am capable of doing it. I'm just going to set you straight on that. I have a continual fear, like staring down this black hole of certainty, that I am going to be getting throat punched and be the one gagging nervously on the ground while someone calmly walks away. But
Dan, I've seen you enough in social experiences to know that no one has to throat punch you for you to collapse and begin gagging nervously on the ground.
Sometimes I do it as some kind of prostration, just a form of preemptive submission. That's generally my move, is preemptive submission. So, anyway, this week I've been making some large vases, and I've been carving I've been drawing on the outside of them. I did a piece I was pretty proud of, kind of experimentation. You saw it, where I drew into it with a rough, almost like a tattoo kind of vibe. Normally with ceramics, you would actually do a colored slip, embed it into the grooves, and then scrape it clean again and get a nice flush finish and glaze over that. It's an inlay. I didn't do that this time. I just carved into it and then wiped some glaze over it and wiped it off with a sponge, so it just picked up in the grooves. And I really liked the look of it. It kind of had this like rough, aged kind of patina to it while bringing out and highlighting the drawing. So I did a much larger version of that vase through two like 14-inch cylinders that were about 1 foot in diameter, and I stacked them on top, and then did a third one to do the kind of the neck and shoulder area. And then once that dried enough, I flipped it upside down, which is a new technique for me, and I did a coil of clay around the base of the vase, and then threw in reverse to do a nice kind of built up, thicker foot than you would normally do, because normally you kind of carve down to get the foot, which is the ring around the bottom of a vase. And this time I actually threw it, so pretty proud of my technique there. Definitely leveling up on that. But I did drawing around the outside, and I was mixing, realistic kind of line and dot sort of mark making with, like video game kind of stuff, childhood, pop culture kind of stuff, and just kind of a mishmash all over the way you see sometimes tattoos are handled when people collect them over years. So that's the piece that I've been working on. I'm pretty excited to fire it. It's just green rare right now. Yeah, I don't know. What about you? How have you been, both art and life wise?
Cue tears, shuddering tears right now. I really appreciate that you are just leaning into the bodily form of the vessel, Dan. Is that maybe the most art way I could respond to your work?
Yeah, I like that it's like specific to the medium while saying nothing at all. It's it's perfect for a critique. Nobody can call you out. You're gonna lose a certain percentage of people who are like don't know what you're saying, but they're too intimidated to say so. So
you really got to be prepped for that counter critique.
It's pretty
like
nuanced.
Pretty
nuanced. Yeah, really. You know what we should make? We should make an app that prepares people for art school. Like it's like a Duolingo kind of thing, except it's like art bullshit, and you learn how to just say don't say pop culture drawing. That's too clear. People might know what you mean. At that point, what you have to do is mark making responding to the form of the vessel. See, that just nestles it nicely in a gray area right there.
Yeah, I mean, who could disagree with that, right?
Right.
If you disagree with that, you can email us directly. Yeah. Wonderful, Dan. What sort of can you describe? Because you sent me images of like your first pass at this, your sort of experiment where it's like a forearm and I think a rope sort of moving around the vessel, and then the hand is grasping the rope that came out of the forearm, so it's sort of circumscribing. Is that the right one? Yeah, circumscribing.
Yeah, and there's kind of like a cloud and some rain and stuff, and
right.
I mean,
this one though, you're talking about video game characters, and now that's getting into some stuff, man.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier in the week, and I was kind of like, because I've been interested for a while in kind of early tattoo kind of, you might call it cruder, but really it's more simplistic kind of line work for tattoos.
You mean like the old Sailor Jerry stuff?
Yeah,
not
kind
like
of
the original tribal stuff.
No, early kind of American tattoos, and like where they're doing it direct on the body, a little bit of feedback about what the person wants, or maybe none. Maybe it's entirely just the tattoo artist.
Just hold him down. I'm going to draw what I want.
I'm going to draw what I want. And a lot of these forms are like repeated and stuff like that, but there's like a small design element, highly narrative based, kind of mixed with reduced symbolism to make it like a cleaner kind of image, but also like attached to something very specific. I like a lot of that. I've been looking at 1800s kind of crockery in America, which has its own interesting story about how there were British artisans who could do very nuanced, detailed floral drawings using cobalt mason stains and clear glaze over that, but they weren't allowed to produce that in the Americas. They had to buy it from England. As I understood, this may not be right, but it almost doesn't even matter because it was interesting to me at the time. And so a lot of farmers actually would make these themselves in the off season of the growing crop or whatever when cows are sleeping. I don't know much about farming or ranching or anything, but
the cows are sleeping.
Cows are sleeping. I'm going to throw a pot.
A little bit of crockery.
Yeah, anyway,
the cows are hibernating. So.
They're not hibernating. They're just starving, and you push them in the barn for the winter. Anyway, yeah, and so it was like really crude kind of cobalt drawings, but there were like local things like here's the plant we have here. It ain't the prettiest plant, but I'm gonna draw this stalk of wheat or whatever the thing is. Like that's our plant. Um, and so I really liked a lot of that. That's all kind of swirling around in my head. And you and I were talking about like what kind of imagery is most important to you, and you made some comment about that. The person you were talking to didn't get your I think it was like an action movie reference, like they were too cultured to actually get the reference of just this banal action movie. And we were kind of saying like, well,
I forget which action movie I was referencing, but yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That's
it was The Island by Michael
The Island, which I didn't of the action movies you and I could easily throw out. I felt like that was actually I didn't think that was that lowbrow, but yeah, you know, like that's us. These are the things that we used to draw. These are the things we used to make. And so like, you know, when I'm doing this drawing at one point, I'm doing like you know, like a Coast Guard ship because I was in the Coast Guard and doing the ocean kind of scene, and then I'm
a
like
portrait of Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, very detailed. Well, really, I mean that could be kind of funny. And then I have like that bullet from Mario Brothers, like cartoonishly going across the sky and breaking through a beer can.
What was that guy's name? It's not bomb. It's now.
Yeah. And so just kind of switching back and forth through all that imagery and stuff like that. And
Bullet Bill.
Bullet Bill, yeah.
Bullet Bill is actually a great name for an action movie character. If you had, you know, I'm thinking like a Tarantino kind of cartoonish action villain, Bullet Bill.
I like it. Let's write it.
He could be a member of the Crazy Eights, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the kind of drawing that I've been doing on the outside. What did you think of that vase that I sent you?
Yeah, your initial stab, right? The one with the forearm and all that.
Yeah.
I love the aesthetic. I love the weird juxtaposition of like you said, that sort of American crockery feel of like a drawn thing. It's got some nostalgia for me too, because I think our maternal grandparents had a bunch of crockery stuff that sort of felt like that. You know, it had that sort of I don't know what you call that, like that. For some reason, the word Dutch comes to mind, like that sort of illustration on there. I don't know why.
Well, it's kind of a mishmash of like these different cultural things, and I think that was the interesting thing to me about that, and about the story, true or not, about the farmers trying to do their best at this craft thing that's done in Europe much better. And I
don't know what I'm going to do.
The
cows are sleeping. I guess I'll make a butter dish.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a butter churn or something. Like it had a function or whatever. But I do like that aesthetic more than the refined, super clean aesthetic of the artisans in Europe that were overly done with the floral kind of thing, and it almost becomes just like an opaque thing you can't visually enter into because there's no fumbling, there's no thought, there's no like that you can see. You know, it's just so. It has this really clean shtick that's been done for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
and these farmers like doing their best is cool.
Yeah, yeah. If it's really easy to do and you're just in the flow, stamp, knocking these out, I could see that. Even though it's exquisitely executed, there's something to that like there's not a lot of earnestness maybe to it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one piece of crockery that someone did, like, I don't know if it was, I think it was like a pheasant or something, and you could tell they tried their damnedest to get that pheasant right. You know, it's got each little feather, and it's not how feathers work. They're kind of built up almost more like scales. The wings are too large, but you can see like a little like plume at the top and all that, you know, like, I don't know if it's a pheasant or exactly what bird it was, but they were really like, you could tell it was specific. The person had a bird in mind, maybe even a bird they themselves had seen, not just the archetype of that bird or generally speaking, but like trying to do a thing and making it specific to you. I find that type of drawing really appealing, and I think that's the thing that I'm trying to narrow in on what I like about that and how far you want to push it. Because I was talking to you about like, should I use the tattoo gun? You mentioned slowing down the rate that it what would you call that, like the rate that it bounces or fires?
I think it's like the cycle rate or whatever, because there's a hertz on the machine that punches the needle. I don't know I don't know if you can get it down like a sewing machine. I've never tried, but
Yeah, that would be cool. And so then kind of using that to stipple the outside. But I was like, well, I don't know if that's too clean, you know. And I think you mentioned that as well, that maybe there's something to kind of the roughness of trying to do it by hand
Yeah.
with a thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and to have the thought that's put into each little stipple mark, there's something to that.
yeah. And so this one, I think I went too far into trying to do like an overall like life oeuvre, like all my things on one thing on one vessel. In the future, I'd like to try to do more like one or two single things.
But that collage is so powerful when you just do that mishmash of.
Yeah. Well, that's the fun of doing it on
a
a vessel as opposed to drawing on a 2D surface, which is new to me. You know, I don't have to think about picture plane quite so much. Some conventions stay true, but some don't. Like the fact that when you get around the vessel, now I have lines interacting and I'm forced to contend with previous images. Like respond to it and be like, well, I had that hand floating on this side, and as I come back around, the hand needs to be holding something, so it's going to hold this thing.
Right.
And that thing's got to be filling this space, and that's not a thing you do with a big paper drawing.
Yeah, it's your own exquisite corpse.
Yeah, it really is kind of.
Respond to it. That's pretty cool. I like that. It's like you're leaving a little challenge for your future self. How much can we really dig into that and sort of bullshit our way around that? Like,
is that bullshit?
Chance,
I don't. That's a tough thing. You and I talk about that with the are we bullshitting kind of thing, but I don't know. That's I don't know. I don't know if it is bullshit. I don't know where that line is where you're like, okay, I've jumped the shark and now we're just kind of BSing about the thing, and because you don't want to also lose
Dan,
the
I
content.
never left the shark. I'm still in the air.
You rode the fucking shark. That should be my next
major shark
cowboy on a shark. Yeah.
Cowboy on a shark? Whoa, what? Say again.
Riding the shark, jumping the
cowboy
shark.
riding a shark.
I've revealed too much.
You know, I have these images in my head of like cowboys riding things that are not traditionally meant to be ridden.
For the listeners, there's just gonna be like a 5-minute pause as everything you say is blocked out in retrospect. It's just gonna be like,
thumb just...
Why did he insert like a tone in there, like a sound tone?
The thumb just slowly moves towards pause and delete.
And I'm just making awkward stammering noises as we come back online. No, okay, go ahead. Tell me about how you sometimes have thoughts about cowboys riding things they shouldn't be riding. Go ahead. Go ahead. Tell me all about it.
All right, when I hear somebody else say it sounds real creepy. Well, it's almost like you could just collage that cowboy off of, you know, the horse or presumably buffalo and mess with scale and juxtaposition to put him on something more interesting. It's been done, but it's sort of like the Slim Pickens riding the nuclear bomb, you know, down at the end of Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah, so like stuff like that has been done, and that's the thing that I've been struggling with is that what draws us to those kind of tropes of like I don't have any cowboys in my family, you know, like Grandpa wore a cowboy hat and lived in the country, but we weren't as classy as cowboys, you know. I don't know. It seems like there's this type of imagery and tropes that don't mean anything to me. And so how do you distill?
But they have real cultural cachet.
They have cultural cachet, but it only matters in so much as that cultural cachet has influenced me. You know what I mean? Like I was doing some drawings in grad school that had like religious imagery, but it wasn't my religion. It was more like Catholic kind of imagery. And the advice I got was like, yeah, but you drew it, so it does mean something to you. Like the fact that when you think of religious imagery just as a category, that you tend to draw Catholic imagery, even though you weren't Catholic, is kind of, you know, and maybe that's where you'd say it's BSing at that point. But I don't know if it is. I mean, that's the way you feel about it.
Yeah, I think what we learned a couple weeks ago is that it's cultural appropriation. that's what it is.
Yes, unless the Catholic Church gives you permission, in which case it's your fault, not the church.
Still not the church's fault.
Yeah, it's Rihanna's fault.
Yeah, that is weird that you would immediately latch onto the Catholic imagery.
Well, because it's almost just like a stand-in for church, but it's like just as a cultural thing that's so potent, which is probably why the Met did that thing with their gala. But it's the same thing. Getting back to what you just said, that picking a certain type of imagery that has been done before. At what point do you leverage that? At what point do you depart from that? At what point? I guess that's all the creative process. I don't know.
So like you have permission to use Superman in your art. Do you have like some personal connection to Superman?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily Superman, but I take your point that like even things that are larger cultural things that are just kind of the big elephants in the room of.
Yeah, I mean, if the point is to communicate an idea,
I guess that sometimes
are you making art
thing.
only for yourself? Like, you could whittle it down until you get to an audience of one. You do get those pieces where somebody puts up a thing that's like, this is in reference to my grandmother and how important she was to me, and then how she was murdered by a pack of dachshunds. And
God, coolest art ever. Oh, that's my next face.
Right. No, that's actually. I'm sorry. I just saw a headline that was about that.
Okay.
A middle-aged woman was killed by a pack of wild wiener dogs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I shit you not.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't tell if you're joking me, but
I'll send you the link. But the point is, somebody makes a piece of art like that, and it's like so specific and so personal that it's sort of beyond criticism at that point. You're like, well, I guess. I
guess that's true. There's a point where it becomes so personalized that it almost is opaque.
Right.
But then on the opposite direction, there's so generalized that it's or so universal that it's almost opaque. There is something
which is where
about
you get into you get into like generic. I think a lot of the sort of layperson complaint, or even not necessarily layperson, just general complaint about still life, even portraiture, landscape, definitely more still life and landscape, is that it is so general that like I could swap one out for the other and it's hard for me to feel emotionally invested, right? Unless I know the story of the person who went through it. Like I talked about that painting exhibit at the local museum here that was about a Northwest artist, and she took her kids with her and she painted Yellowstone and all and like reading the little card about how arduous her journey was made the paintings more poignant, and like you could start to feel more of the emotion in the painting. But if I just saw it by itself, like, yes, it's very well executed, it is yet another landscape of Yellowstone. How many people have painted the waterfall at Yellowstone? I'm starting to I'm sorry, they all start to blend together. It becomes a little too general for me.
Yeah, well, and that's where I started steering away from my painting and drawing, at least for a little bit, because I do tend towards realism generally, or naturalistic looking things, and it started to feel like everything I was doing was just a naturalistic drawing or painting. Like, end of description.
It starts to feel
the thing doesn't
like,
matter.
How do you stand
a shoe,
out?
a flower, a landscape, a person, it doesn't matter. It was just a naturalistic looking thing that I did, rendered well in charcoal or oil. Was all.
Well, and anybody
could
paint that given enough time, right?
That's you go and just pick people at random from Choose Your Atelier and ask them to do it, and they could probably do it better.
Right. Yeah. Did you get the
it's-
article about the dachshunds mauling that woman?
Oh no. I'll be saving that for later.
This is that'll go in your weird collection that is not appropriate to discuss on the show.
That'll go under the category of cowboys writing things. Okay.
How about a cowboy riding a killer wiener dog? Because this is so great, because I absolutely loved the single panel comic strip The Far Side growing up. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. And there actually is, I think, a Far Side comic called Killer Wiener Dogs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm trying to see if it's up. But anyway, yeah, this middle-aged woman in Oklahoma mauled to death by a pack of wiener dogs.
Okay. Well, depressing. So for today, you and I wanted to maybe take a break and make something. Yeah, we were hoping to find a little prompt to make something.
Should we take a break?
I feel like
should we take a break on that
closing
point?
in on. Dude, the clip art photo of this do not cross line. There's police cars, like they're actively restraining wiener dogs. They're just weapons drawn.
Yeah, and they're all so short, right? I mean, they're so small. Like, yeah, the stock photo of the police car at night.
I feel like you could just wear combat boots and you'd be all right. You'd have to really slowly go down as the wiener dogs grab you. You know, you just slowly.
Yeah, have you? So you had a small dog for a while, and then you guys called it quits, right? I mean, you can do that with a dog. It's not like a child. You can just say like, "Well, we're done here."
You are virtually ensuring that I'm gonna get hate letters or hate mail. No, look.
Yeah, if you have hate mail,
we did get rid of our dog. Let me just give the justification. We did get rid of our dog, but I gave her back to the Oregon Dog Rescue no-kill shelter, and they keep her there as long as possible until she finds a home. And I checked on her routinely, and she found a home again within a week, and I gave her away because I felt like I wasn't emotionally connected to her in a way that was stabilizing to her as a dog, and it was for her benefit as much as my own. I quit on her. I quit, and I gave her away. That's what I did.
Yeah.
But you say gave your dog away, and what people picture is that you gave them to some random person on Craigslist for a canned hunt. Real thing. No, it's a real thing. Craigslist won't let you do it with your animals or anything like that because people are buying them up for canned hunts. They just turn them loose. It's awful.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's awful.
That is terrible.
Yeah, I don't know where it was happening.
Exciting.
I don't know if it just one time or if it was a lot of people.
Oh, how does that even come about? Are you like
collect up the animals and then like I don't know, turn them loose from the bed of their truck and proceed to be the worst human being ever? I don't know what. Anyway, okay, so I feel like we've got a lot of visual fodder. We've hit a few things. What do we want to? What's our prompt? Let's take a prompt. Let's take a little bit and make something, and then we'll do a quick recap.
I'm still trying to picture like how that idea got started. Like, well, what if we just took a whole bunch of stray animals?
Well, they don't want them anyway. I mean, we're doing society a favor, really.
Wow. You can send your thoughts on that directly.
I know. See, that's the problem with not doing an accent. That's the problem with not doing it. That sounded like that was me, in my opinion. I wasn't. I was satirically being the person who would do such a monstrous thing, and I was like, I should do an accent, and I was like, don't do a Southern accent. That's pretty rude. It doesn't always have to be Southern people doing these sorts of things, but it's the real go-to. And so I didn't. So in an effort to be more, to be less exclusive. And you know,
you really
highlight
want to be inclusive when you're pretending to be a hateful.
I was like, it could be anybody. It could be anybody from anywhere. It doesn't have to be somebody with a banjo playing in the background. It doesn't have to. And so I didn't do it. And now
insulting the banjo crowd.
And now this is I love a good banjo. And now here's where I am. That's what I get. I should have just done the accent. Next time, I'm just doing a Southern accent. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm going to do that.
If you have any thoughts on Dan's view of the South or his view on how animals should be treated,
I love the South. One of my good friends and one of two of our listeners, including Mom, is from the South. You know,
wait, Mom is not from the South.
One of the two, including Mom.
Oh,
that sounds like I'm including Mom and being in the South. I see how that's confusing. I'm just saying,
totally.
Of the two people, one of them is Mom, the other one is Chris.
Right.
Hey,
and just
Chris,
to be clear, Mom would also shoot a dog.
Again, and
Dan, what are we drawing
You know what
today?
the best thing
what
is?
What are we drawing?
We're constantly making fun of Mom on the show, and Mom has never listened, so she doesn't know.
But one day she will. She'll be like, you know what? I should support the boys.
And she's gonna give all of the inheritance to Carly and Hillary.
Dan, what are we drawing today? What are we drawing?
Okay, what's our prompt? I'm thinking wiener dogs, canned hunt, old ladies, cowboys, riding, question mark. What do you got?
No, that sounded perfect.
that was the whole thing. That was the whole thing. Do we have to include all, or do we can select some of those things?
I do like the idea of tattoos.
Let's do wiener dog based art. You like tattoos?
I like tattoos. I think that's pretty germane. It's something you've been working through for a while. Seems like we're working through some abandonment issues here. We got throat punches. Don't forget throat punches.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Bad action movies.
You know what? I think that the idea of a prompt, like a quote unquote prompt, is too restrictive. I think what we should do is we just go with the things we've talked about. It has to be relevant to what we've talked about today. Go. Make whatever you want.
Jesus.
No, we've talked about a lot of things.
It's the worst prompt.
That's not the worst. We've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about altitude. We've talked about throat punches. We've talked about wiener dogs. We talked about old ladies. We talked. You awkwardly trailed off and conspicuously did not finish your thoughts about cowboys riding question mark. And
I got a lot of things to process there. Okay,
and canned hunt. So
canned hunt is actually. That phrasing is just really loaded. Canned
hunt.
I
like that because it's I like canned hunt because it's ambiguous enough. Because if I just say wiener dogs, we're both just gonna come back with a wiener dog drawing. Yours is obviously gonna be better because you have more of a penchant for illustration, and mine's gonna be like this really realistic looking wiener dog.
You actually owned a small dog. Also, I like that backhanded compliment. Yours is obviously gonna be better because it's not gonna be realistic, whereas mine will actually be a detailed representation of the actual thing.
But no, but I think you reveal too much there that you clearly think realism is better in some way. I don't, because I take that as a negative. Because right now I'm doing trying to do this tattoo stuff, and I'm like, God, I can't do a graphic thing. I can't. I'm like, I should just render it with every little hair on that thing. That's not gonna look too detailed on the clay at all.
I'm really uncomfortable with that voice you made and saying every little hair on it.
Normally I'm just shouting it into the mirror. Okay, I think we're ready.
Canned hunt.
Go. I'll meet you back here in a while.
What are we doing? Half hour?
An unspecified. We'll agree. Yeah, a half hour.
What the hell?
A half hour.
All right, which means the episode will continue to run for 30 minutes of silence.
So just skip forward, listeners, and by listeners I mean Chris, if you're still there. I'm so sorry about what my brother said about the South. I love the South. I love you, and I love the South. I've said too much. Maybe love is too strong of a word. I apologize. If
like
that's
in a
too
cowboy
much.
Writing things they shouldn't kind of.
I love you in the way that a cowboy loves writing things.
That he shouldn't.
That he shouldn't. So. Anyway, go ahead and skip forward a half hour, and you'll find us there, maybe. All right, welcome back from our creative interlude. That was a half hour, a tight half hour of our time, maybe 2 days. Is that true?
Yeah. So what happened was we got off mic. I don't mind doing a little behind the scenes. We got off mic, started to make for about a half hour, and then we were like, actually, it's a beautiful day. It's the early part of summer. There's a lot of stuff to get done. We don't have to record the whole episode because we're not doing it live. We ended up breaking up the making session over a few days. Actually, to really point the finger, I was ready to go in an hour. I think I took an hour to make my little painting. You took 2 days? A day and a half of work?
Yeah, you were all, because I'd given you such a hard time about, not sticking to the time frame, being over by like 5 minutes. We got off mic and I was like, hey dude, and you're like, all right, let's do this. And it was like you were ready, like a half hour, let's go, and go now. Are you going? You're going now, right? And I was like, I don't think I want to do it in a half hour. I'd really like to take my time with this and just really see where it takes me. And you were like, oh yeah, that worked too. That also would work.
Sure. Okay, yeah. Just really, I just total deflation. Just like, okay, all right, fine.
Yeah. But wait. Before we get into critiquing the work, I just sent you. I have dreams of becoming Bob Ross in all things. And outside of my studio, I had a bird. A robin, a couple robins make a nest, and I've been slowly taking videos of them, of the eggs that they lay, these beautiful turquoise eggs. And I just sent you a video of about 6 days after the eggs hatched. What do you think of that?
Little baby birds.
Those two bundles of cuteness. They're starting to grow there.
I'm playing the video right now. Oh, they're all fuzzy. Oh, and they've got the flight feathers coming in, those quills on their wings.
Yeah, I noticed those. They have like body fur to kind of like keep them warm, keep those little dinosaurs warm. But then the wingtip feathers are starting to come in, and they are fattening up quick.
Yeah.
I see the.
Oh, that's a lot of vomit. Yeah.
Yeah, I see the parents working together while I'm working in the studio. I'll be throwing some pots, and I'll look out the window, and I'll see one of the birds sitting in the nest, and the other one will come with a worm, and they'll trade out. They'll actually trade positions. The other one will fly off, and the one with the worm will give it to the chicks and trade out. Every time I get up, I go quietly to the trash can, and I hear just when they'll fly off. And you think they'd get used to me by now, but they don't seem to.
No,
so,
they're highly. Yeah, this is great. We have a couple families of robins that set up a homestead every year on the underside of our deck, but it's in such a position that I can only see the nest from the underside, and I don't want to disturb it too much.
Yeah, well, it's that time of year, where the eggs are hatching, and now that I've been watching out for them, I see robins everywhere around the area.
Yeah,
I was going to run the other night, and I saw a robin flying and ducking over some houses, and I looked back at where it came from, the tree it came from, and moved a little bit closer, and there's another robin that flew out of the same area, and I watched where it came from, and you could see way up there in the crotch of the tree, you could see a nest where the birds were, and you could actually hear these ones chirping. So a little further along, you hear chirp, chirp, chirp.
Right.
And so now that I'm watching for them, they're there.
Right before my commute home the other day, I'm just looking out the window of the train idly before it takes off, and in the train station, in the overhead beams that hold up sort of the rain cover, they've got those little Xy sort of pointy needle things that are supposed to keep birds off of the railing so they're not just openly shitting, just dumping their whole cloaca on
at first passengers. You feel bad for the birds, and you're like, wait, the thing we're stopping here,
right, yeah.
is them shitting on my head. Yeah.
So, and as someone who has been shat upon by birds at least once, if not more,
that was my favorite moment of my whole childhood. Pretty much all I remember. I hope as my mind withers in the next 2 years or 60, that is the very last
6
memory
months
to go of a bird shitting on your shoulder. And you're in total denial that it's happened till mom points to it. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. But I look, so I see the beam with all the little needles that are like, hey, don't sit here, you goddamn dinosaur. But then just adjacent to this is a series of pipes or conduits or whatever that, hold electrical cables, whatnot. Anyway, there's like half a dozen of these sort of galvanized pipes sitting next to each other, all in a row, and that makes just the perfect platform with just about an 8 or 9 inch gap between that conduit piping and the awning, so that if you were a small-ish bird, you are totally protected. Like, there is no way a predatory bird is going to see you from above and you are way, way out of harm's way, because this thing is easily 20 feet off the ground. And sure enough, this pair of crows had set up their nest right next to the beam that's got all the scraggly, like, get the hell out of here, birds stuff that right next to it. They've set up shop on this conduit piping, and they have this giant nest full of branches, and you could see the little babies, and it was just like, oh man, it was a total, I just heard Jeff Goldblum, like, life finds a way. So anyway, clever girl.
Yeah, we had a bird's nest in the backyard, and the eggs disappeared one day. The kids kept getting closer and closer to it, and I kept telling them not to. And then finally, one day the eggs disappeared, and I don't know if the bird chose a new spot to hide them, or if I don't even know if that's anatomically an option for a bird.
Yeah, could they even get it in their mouth?
Yeah, and so I said, well, kids, I guess that means their genetic information won't pass along, and there's a lesser likelihood that the next bird will do that.
Yeah. There's some epigenetics.
We'll lay them on the
on.
ground. Yeah. So, anyway, but that's not why we're here.
Hold on.
Here to talk about.
I got one question for you, because the whole impetus for you sending me this bird video was in memory of Bob Ross's wonderful little asides from outside of his studio. Just a little bit of charm from my studio to yours. So, Dan, I got to hear your best beat the devil out of it.
Go on, beat the devil out.
Yeah, that's good. That's nice. We'll lock that in. We'll do. Maybe I'll do a side-by-side comparison with like the Bob Ross drop. So,
yeah.
All right.
Like I always say, just go on, beat the devil out of it. That's a bit closer to how
And just beat the devil out of it.
I did a little bit more deeper, authoritative after a shot of bourbon kind of
and sort of like with a steely eye, and it's like you're telling the kid to hit his dog, like.
Well, I was thinking more of like a back porch sitting staring into a mushroom cloud as a heat wave makes his way towards you. He says, "Go on, beat the devil out of it." He's like referring to himself and all of humanity at the same time.
Wow! All right. All right. Well, no, yes, and
I don't know
yes,
what
and.
movie leads up to that, but I want to make that movie.
I want to yes and you on the mushroom cloud, but like, I'm not sure how much apocalyptic humor we have in us.
I think I got
it's built up over the years.
But speaking of maybe not a global apocalypse, which would actually be the only kind, a local apocalypse for whatever poor animal gets involved in this phenomenon called a canned hunt. You made some art for us based on that. Well, I made some art on that as well. Should you go first? You're gonna go first.
I'll go first. Yeah,
we'll go first.
We'll just do a quick wrap up here at the end. So I made a little painting, some acrylic and gouache. And
what is gouache? Some people haven't heard. I mean, I know what gouache is, but some people I know. Don't accuse me of not knowing. I know what gouache is.
Sure, you totally know what you totally know what gouache is. Gouache is. Is it easel or
but I
easel?
I actually hadn't heard of it until I got to art school. People have heard of acrylic. People have heard of tempera, oil paint, watercolor. Gouache and flash often get overlooked, but you'll still hear them.
Yeah, I've never worked in flash, but I really want to.
Only sad people do.
There's also something else called one shot, I think. It's like a kind of enamel.
Okay, now you're just lying to our audience. Stop it.
One shot, I see it sometimes in lowbrow art, and I really want to play with it. I think it's kind of enamel, if I'm not mistaken. It's a series of tubes. So, anyway, gouache is opaque watercolor. And it's usually so that means that when you're laying it down, normally you're relying with more traditional watercolor, you're relying on the white of the paper to reflect light back through the watercolor and give it a sense of luminance. With gouache, it's an opaque watercolor, so you're not going to get that as much. And it tends to dry very, very matte and very flat. You don't often see a lot of brush strokes in it. It's very popular amongst designers. It's usually bound up with gum arabic, but you can find it bound with acrylic now as well as a medium.
It's suspended in gum arabic?
Yeah, I believe so. Suspended in either gum arabic or they now make acrylic gouache as well. So, and I think to make it more opaque, it just has more chalk in it, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the technical information in front of me right now,
but its main quality would be that it's super flat and non-reflective.
Super flat, non-reflective, very matte. Yep, and you just thin it down with water, like watercolor. Normally comes in a little tube. So anyway, I used gouache.
How big is this work here?
This is this work right here. I don't have the metric right in front of me. I think it is maybe
in giant thumbs.
In giant thumbs. I think it's like 9x12 maybe. Anyway, and this is this is an olive green background done in acrylic, and then the deer and the can are all done in gouache. So, man, like I really tried to art this up before putting pencil down to paper. I was like,
always turns out well.
I was just like, okay, like think about all the ways, like what's a can, what's a hunt, and I guess the reason that you and I break this down at the end of the show is really to like sort of elucidate the creative process and talk it through, because it is sort of this black box that I think confounds a lot of people. Like either you can do it or you can't. It is one of those things that's like, yeah, it is a little bit of a black box. It is a little bit inexplicable how the human brain comes up with ideas and mashes things together and juxtaposes and is creative. At the same time, it's not like a process that you can just slap down mechanically every time. Like there is a little bit of nonsense to it, a little bit of magic, a little bit of superstition. And I tried, man. I really tried to church it up. Like, oh man, there's how many different ways can I take the word hunt? How many different ways can I take the word canned? Like, what are synonyms? And I just kept, spinning around this cloud of nonsense, and just no idea was better than like the very first image that had popped into my head. You ever do that thing where like you try and hold the prompt or whatever, the incipient thing is in your head, and then just sort of hold it while at the same time meditate on the idea to see like what else comes up from the old meat computer?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do that. I find the more I focus on it in a direct way, like where you're trying to figure out like associated meanings and stuff like that, the harder it is. And I think, I kind of think that's an unnatural way to go about it, because I do that as well. I think some things just need to be direct. I feel like Cant Hunt, if I were to see that in a way that added to an artwork, in a way that there's some sort of conceptual grounding to the whole thing, almost certainly the work would have been made with other things in mind, and Cant Hunt is such a glib way of putting a bow on it, and so it's almost like you're doing it in reverse, which isn't going to work. By trying to find a meditative thing to come out of Cant Hunt instead of putting it on as a glib sticker. I think that maybe is a little bit contrary. And so like I did the image you did here was like a soup can, a reddish orange soup can with like a deep brownish cad yellow, cad orange deer leaping through the can with the lid blown open and drab.
Really simple palette, but trying to get all the colors to work together in a way.
Yeah, there's some nice subtlety going on with the green and then the orangish red of the can, and the deer is kind of an in between the two, like a brownish transitional form between the two. I think it works well in a literal way of doing that. I think the shadow's kind of funny, where the shadow, I can't tell if it's a second layer of deer legs and deer body parts and antlers and everything, or if it's all the
it's
antlers
weird,
almost remind me of like a drop shadow.
Yeah, it's really
instead
weird.
of being a second antlers, it's a drop shadow, and so it's like I don't know, it's like one of those felt boards you have when kids. It's like that used to be explained to us in the 90s or something. I feel like everyone had a felt board before iPads.
Yeah, this
those that we had was felt.
Yeah, this piece is really weird.
It is weird the way it's like blowing open the lid as it jumps through like the Kool-Aid
But then
Man.
like is the bottom not there on the can? Like it's kind of dumb, to be honest. Like it's not I think it's well crafted. It's just not a well thought out image. It was.
Oh, I think it is. I think it's just. I think you're a little hard on yourself. I think it's good. I think it's just a flat, simple sketch. I mean, I think it only doesn't hold water if you try to put too much water in it.
Right, much like that can that has no bottom.
Right. It holds an appropriate amount of water for what it is.
I don't think there's much more to talk about here. I'm really interested in what you made, because you sent a lot of images which I was like, that's impossible to do in a half hour, and then I was like, oh, he took a full 2 days. There's a really tall vessel with some really intricate etching or carving.
Well, so that's part of another thing I've been
and then an
doing.
amphor.
That's about 50 pounds of clay, and it's a really tall vase made in 2 sections that I stacked up. I threw 2 cylinders.
Well,
let them get leather hard and
which one
together.
is the response to Cant Hunt?
So the second one is the response to the can. The first one is me using this technique of drawing into the clay.
Right, this sort of engraving or etching. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the second one is probably is the one that is a response.
Dude,
to
this amphor
the Cant
is
Hunt.
just insane. I'm playing the video that you have here, and you're turning it. So on the body of this large amphor, you have this sort of repeating image with a cartoon bullet passing through multiple crushed cans, and then there's star thistles below it. So you're using a lot of personal imagery here, imagery from our childhood. I love it.
Do you see the oak leaves hanging at the top?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you and I, we learned to shoot while shooting BB and pellet guns off our grandfather's porch while he drank. Do you remember what he was drinking? It was some kind of silver bullet beer.
Lucky beer. Yeah.
Lucky beer. And he was and he would diligently drink the beer to provide more cans for us to set down in the yard. Don't shoot the dog.
It's a hell of a sacrifice. Yeah. Don't you dare shoot my dog, and don't you dare shoot one variety of squirrel.
There was one that he didn't, he and a couple birds that he liked.
Yeah, don't shoot the quail. You may shoot the neighbor's cat if it wanders onto my land.
Yes, don't shoot those 2 birds there. He had a birdhouse. Don't shoot the dog. If you see a cat, shoot that.
yeah. If it crosses the fence line, you kill that cat. Yeah, because the cat was going to eat the quail and the right. There
was a whole there was a whole God complex going on there. Anyway,
he's pruning the vineyard.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So that's where the star thistles come from, the oak leaves in Southern Oregon. And I just thought it was kind of nice to have the Cant Hunt, just like to take it, kind of like I was saying, like some things maybe don't have the depth to them, that just have take it literally just as a Cant Hunt instead of a releasing of a thing, just instead of releasing of the animals for the shooting, just take it completely literally as a canned hunt. Because for me, that's probably the thing that I've hunted most was Grandpa's beer cans. Anyway, so I just kind of liked to have that, and then to have a little bit of a personal nature to the pottery, the personal significance, and then the kind of the Mario Brothers.
It is kind of a bullet bill. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
So by taking it super simple, I ended up making it kind of highly personal.
Yeah. So art is not a competition, Dan, but if it were, I think this round, like hands down, this is the more successful piece. This is really well thought out. I mean, I'm biased.
Well,
I'm biased.
I took longer on it, so I don't know if that's.
Oh no, you did. Like you definitely cheated. But if you're, if you're not cheating, like you're not really trying, and if you get caught,
That's
if
true.
you get caught, you're not trying hard enough.
I'm always saying that to people.
Yeah.
Art is all like, don't cheat in your life, except in art. Art is almost exclusively about how best to cheat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
Just steal that shit. Of make it look hard.
How you can cheat so well. Take old ideas and copy them, rehash them so you can hide the fact that it was an old idea. Get people to work on it, find shortcuts, use molds, anything you can, photo references, cheat as much as you can.
Absolutely.
And soon that'll be a thing.
Yeah.
So,
by far this is the more successful piece. I can't wait.
Oh, cool. Well,
I can't wait to see how it ends up when it's colored and fired and all of that.
When it almost certainly explodes in the kiln because I overlooked an air bubble while joining the two sections.
Oh well, I think that's
together,
perfect.
and,
that's excellent. Yeah, and I think this imagery of like the shot up can, the oak leaves, the star thistles. You and I have talked off mic about how important this imagery has become to us over. Sort of like looking in hindsight at our own childhood. So this obviously has a meaning to us as way outside of any audience or whatever. So obviously I'm quite biased when I feel touched by this piece, but I think, and I love the idea that like the drawing is in the round, which is
where it finally comes full circle.
Such a sculptural term. So.
But so as far as and we're almost done here, but as far as a brief criticism, my concern about this is that because it's repeated imagery, it starts to take on a layer of decoration rather than the free-form drawing that some of the other pottery was doing with the engraving. I liked the idea that like I started off in a place with some of the other pottery and engraving and would work my way around and came to a surprising place where all of a sudden a certain image I started with has to contend with another image. And in this case, this has like a repeated pattern in such a way that it almost takes on just an aesthetic value the way you see cobalt pottery, that's been made for a millennia of just repeated flowers.
Yeah, I
think as they go around,
you're always going to be pushing and pulling on that dividing line between it's just mere decoration, like I think we talked about at the beginning of the episode, or is it something more in the realm of a tattoo where it's a free-form drawing over a three-dimensional surface and the drawing is responding to the surface? Is it you're going to end up I think always sort of in the place that you see on like even just the vessel that you drew inspiration from with like sort of that, is it amphora?
I don't know. I've always said amphora. It's
amphora,
like the Greek.
Yeah.
The Greek kind of vessel where there's like a flared bottom that I assume was.
Yeah, I know what a fan you are of that. Yeah, a nice flared base.
A flared base, and then a nice full container with a hearty lip on it.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
It's kind of my bag. So. I think probably when you find that there's an odd place where you're like, oh, is that decoration? Is that personal narrative? Is that whatever? I kind of think in addition to art being about cheating, I'm just full of advice today. Maybe it's I don't know. I'm full of advice today, but maybe
keep piling on.
Maybe it's that's the other good place in art where you actually, instead of looking for those places where it's a tight squeeze between two giant ideas, the decoration, the personal narrative, or whatever, just as an example, instead of backing away at the joining place of that, find a way to exploit that divide between those two things.
Yeah, it's a real opportunity.
And carve out that niche more, like already go down that line, because there's already an opportunity there. And you notice it, because as soon as you're visually going across from the designed repeated pattern to the personal narrative, you feel that bump when you transition between them. Something has changed right in between there, and find the access point into that. Maybe a good opportunity for me here rather than moving directly away from that. So
it's good advice. Yeah. Dan, I think on that sage wisdom, I think we're out of time and we got to leave it there. Do you remember the links that people can go to if they want to contact us or check out the work or anything like that? Yeah, I'll take care of it.
There's one at we have a with the there's Instagram has one for sharing.
Well said. If you would like to check out our feed on Instagram,
Facebook?
our handle is Sharing Hour. If you would like to tweet at us or read our Twitter comments, handle
Do
is...
we twit on there? Or no?
I twit occasionally. I retwit on occasion. I actually, it sort of ebbs and flows, but we are on there. I do check it. I'll get a little notification on my pocket computer if you twit at us. Anyway, Twitter handle is Sharing Hour. If you want to email us directly, don't hesitate. Reach out. That is sharinghour@gmail.com, and all of our past episodes, show notes, artwork that we've taken inspiration from, artists we've talked about, all that can be found at our website, sharinghour.com. If you found the show enjoyable, if you like it, if you get a little kick out of it, if we made you giggle, just hop onto iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts, and are able to leave a rating and preferably a written review. We've got a few written reviews up there. It's growing, and from what I read about the algorithms that dominate our lives, this is how podcasts get recommended to more people. Also, if there's anybody you know of that would get a kick out of the show, please share it with them. Dan, I think that's all I have. You, any final thoughts?
I feel pretty certain that anytime you use tickle and giggle within a certain number of words of each other, you get flagged on an FBI server.
Oh, we're totally, we're there. We're there for sure. Yeah.
Just letting you know about that.
Yeah.
So
anyway, just a lot of giggling and tickling. Dan, good luck with that flared bass. Until next time. Yeah, we will be back at you next time with another episode of the Brothers Craft Time Sharing Hour. Dan, let's go vomit. Let's go vomit into some bird mouths.
What?
That's weird.
It's not often you get a sharp what?